How many of you have ever worked in an organizational culture that you loved? Nobody? Nobody worked in something they enjoyed? Okay. How many of you ever worked in one that you did not like? I see. More people find things wrong with their culture than right. The reason why it is so easy to be able to identify all those things that go wrong in organizational culture is because your culture is the backdrop for everything you do. It provides you with the answers to why do we do this? What's important to us? What does this mean? How are people going to act? How are people going to dress? What can I expect my boss to say? What should I expect my boss never to say? What kind of customers do we have? How do we get them? All those things that you take for granted within your own workplace, it's all based on your organizational culture. When organizational cultures align with what you do, it's a seamless experience and the culture just blends into the company. But when they don't align, that's when all of a sudden it stands out. And it's so easy to say, I worked someplace that didn't make sense. Let me give you an example. Walk into work one day, and you're on this casual Friday. Everyone's wearing shorts. But until last week, everyone wore ties. Does that make sense to you? So why everyone would all of a sudden go from ties to shorts? It's a pretty drastic leap. But it's not an unrealistic leap. So all of a sudden you've told a group of people that have never had to dress down, you can dress down for a day. How far down they dress is really a matter of interpretation. Second example. For years, your company has promoted wearing suits and ties because you work for IBM. You're buttoned up all the time. Everything you say is formal. Everything you do is by the book. You are the leader in everything you do. Now all of a sudden, here comes these upstarts from the West Coast wearing khakis, flip-flops, and T-shirts, and they're kicking your butt. How's that possible? The culture of a company is supposed to be buttoned up. Blue shirts, black ties, black suits. That's what we do. That's how we win. But when you don't win that way, it becomes confusing. Your organizational culture comes to life through a couple of major things that your company does. And this isn't going to apply just to your company, but to everything you do in life. First, your artifacts. What are the things that people look around and see within your organization that bring meaning to that organization? Toastmasters is a great example. Our lectern. When you see the lectern in the front of the room, you know what it's used for. You can expect someone to stand behind it, give a speech. The timing lights are traditional. Stop, start, continue. Name badges, where we meet. Did our culture shift a little bit when we went to meetings? Did it make less sense to everybody? It wasn't the right place. Because our artifact is part of the building. The second thing that binds your culture is the stories you tell. Who can relate a story of Denny and Denise? Just off the top of their head. Can anybody just picture them sitting back there? Can anybody remember the voice in the back of your head to what Denny sounded like when he was mad about the fan? To the hug you got from Denise when she walked in. What about Aunt Kathy, who's not here today and isn't going to be back? Can her voice resonate in your mind? Those are stories you tell. The stories that bring your culture to life are those stories that make sense. When that brings your culture together, that is what ends up binding your organization together. Unfortunately, culture isn't something that we've talked about for a long time. Anybody work in a company that talks a lot about strategy? What are we going to do next? What's our marketing strategy? What's our buying strategy? What's our hiring strategy? What's our financial strategy? If you don't take the time to organize your culture, it's really easy for that stuff to become disconnected and make no sense whatsoever. Our hiring strategy, we're going to hire the best and brightest people we can find. Our financial strategy, we're not going to pay them above minimum wage. Our working strategy, they're going to work 70 hours a week. Our retention strategy, we can just find new ones. If you work in that company, how happy do you think you're going to be? Do any of those things make sense to go together? When you're building an organization, whether it's Toastmasters, whether it's a family, whether it's a marriage, whether it's a company, whether it's a charitable organization, how you tie all of your pieces together, what artifacts you choose to say, there will be no chicanery in our organization, or we cherish all chicanery in our organization. The artifacts you choose, the stories you tell, that's what's going to bring your organization to life. I'll leave you with one story. In the 1940s, as World War II was ending, there was a German company, Bavarian Motor Works, that made airplanes. At the end of the war, they were disbanded and said, you are never allowed to make an airplane again because your engines take planes too high, too fast, and too far, and we want to disband the German army. What do we do now? We're still a company. Let's make cars. How do we do this to hold true to who we are? I know. We'll make a little round one. It's blue and white. It looks like a propeller going through a blue sky. That will become our symbol to remind us of where we've been and our dedication to excellence. Is it true? Who knows? But it's the story they've told forever and a day. Well, really, since 1943. The story binds people to the culture. Excellence in driving machines is what they're known for. It's the backdrop for everything they do. As you leave this room today and you go back to your company, ask yourself and look around. What's our culture? Does it make sense? What stories do we tell? And what artifacts can I use to help bring our organization to life? So that's it.